Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Sure.
Okay, now if I look goofy, you gotta say something, okay? So we're gonna have to do this all over again.
My name is Al Ducharme. I'm one of the founders of Hoverfly, and I now serve as the Chief Technology Officer.
I'm Dan Burrows. I'm one of the founders of Hoverfly, and I'm currently the Chief Software Architect and Chief Information Officer.
Okay, I'm Steve Walters. I'm President and COO of Hoverfly Technologies.
Hoverfly started with an idea, the vision of which was to solve large-scale industrial problems. Hoverfly today is tethered drones that can stay over a position for a long period of time and provide communications coverage as well as surveillance and situational awareness.
3, 2, 1,
When we first started, the biggest difficulty was that we were somewhat alone out there in the industry. And I shouldn't say quite that way. There are other drone companies, other people that were getting started at the same time, but the drone industry was really in its infancy at that time. And that meant that we couldn't rely on other people's work that had already existed. We couldn't just go out and buy a product. It didn't matter how much money you had. There were things that just didn't exist. Not that we had the money to buy it if it did at the time, but we had to do so much work to invent and build the fundamental infrastructure and the fundamental tools that we needed to build the system that we really wanted to have.
I had a student come to me, one of the founders, George Sapp, needing a project for his senior design course. And I had seen hobbyists starting to play around with the idea of using multiple rotors. So instead of a single rotor helicopter, multiple rotors. And suggested that we could use sensors from cell phones and brushless motors and make a multiple rotor helicopter. George was into flying helicopters. I was into remote control aircraft, and we, kind of came up with this idea of a flight controller for multiple rotor aerial vehicles. And George went off, and I helped him with the senior design. But after the senior design project, George kept on, enhancing and improving the technology, to the point where there were a lot of people in the remote control aircraft world that wanted a device that they could fly with multiple rotors, and that was really the genesis of the whole thing. As soon as George showed that there was a market for this, we came together and formed Hoverfly in 2010.
This is an interesting question to me, because I always think about what is Hoverfly and the terms of the history. Like, we make flying things at one point, and at one point in time that was enough. It was people were amazed by that. It's something flew. Great, you have a product. But as time has evolved, we have become so much more of a integrated, embedded product into people's systems, where we provide them this ability to have these new capabilities, new ways of using their existing systems, sensors, cameras, radios, whatever it is, and be able to do something with them that they couldn't do before, and have kind of gone from being this thing that was a very noticeable, very out there, new technology, shiny, bright object type company, to becoming more of basically like an embedded infrastructure type company. We provide capabilities that are at the core of what our customers are doing, even though, we still have this kind of fancy flying shiny object doing it.
We got a little stir crazy today. We've been writing code, and so we decided to try to fly a FedEx box. Pretty simple. Hoverfly Pro in here. Got some really cheap speed controllers, little wire harness, and 4 Rimfire 300 motors. One thing we had a little trouble with was the propeller size, because you can see most of the airflow is blocked here by the FedEx box. So when we put the propellers on, we needed some long ones, but they were too long. So what you want to do, this is a little tip, if your propellers are too long, you just want to get in here and cut them off with a wire cutter, and that way they won't hit, because the first time we built it, of course, they all hit.
When I look back at the path that I had that got me to where I am today with Hoverfly, it's kind of strange because it sort of seems more planned than I remember it being at the time. And then there were people I knew, and some of the other founders, Al Ducharme, Stacy Ducharme in particular, that Al was somebody who had a strong electrical background, and these two people had been friends of mine for ages before this. We'd always been looking, we'd all been involved with different startups at different times, and had always been kind of in this entrepreneurial world, and we're always looking for something to do together. And I had this embedded software background, Al had the electrical background, Stacy had the business marketing background, and we met one other person who had the idea of he wanted to build a flight controller, and with his idea and our expertise just came together to form a really just a great initial team to start this vision.
Oh, man down.